Afternoon, Cherries fans, and welcome to this show here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Now, this is a very special show. As everybody will know, Bill Foley has a 33% stake in FC Lorient of Ligue 1. Now, Lorient, unfortunately, aren't having a very good season this year, and there has been rumours that Romain Faivre will be recalled by AFC Bournemouth. Lorient fans haven't been particularly happy with the Cherries, and they don't particularly like AFC Bournemouth from what you see on Twitter, X, Facebook, wherever. However, what I wanted to do was find out a little bit more about the French club and what AFC Bournemouth, Bill Foley, Loïc Féry, their current owner as well, he owns the other 66%, and Romain Faivre mean to them, and if there will ever be a good relationship between the two. So it is a pleasure to welcome onto Up the Cherries in all departments, Lorient fan Nicolas. Welcome to the show, Nicolas. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you. I'm happy
Excellent.
to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, you are a Lorient fan. Do tell us a little bit more about your history with the club and how you become a Lorient fan.
So, I do not live in Lorient. I live outside the country, but my father is from there. So when I started following football about 3 to 4 years ago, and as time progressed, I followed more and more. I started supporting this club because it's the club that my father supports, and the it's where my father is from. And when I first started following the club, we were in the second division of French football, so I did not have any access to the games. I remember watching on sports sites. They were writing what was happening, but I could not see anything apart from highlights. But yes, right now, as long as we're in the first division, I can see the games without any problem. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. And of course, Lorient did very, very well last season. Um, and, do tell us a little bit more about last season and what it was like for you.
Yeah. So last season, I wasn't expecting that much from last season, but it turns out our team was flying the first half of the season. We
Mm,
had, I think, in 12 games we had one loss
yeah,
against Lens, and it was really amazing. And I think this is the period where players like Dango Ouattara, that
yeah.
now plays in Bournemouth, really showed his skills, and also our ex-striker now, Terry Murphy, really stepped up his game. Really, the team just it was the right players at the right time,
Yeah.
because a club like FC Lorient cannot go out shopping. Oh, I want this player. I want this player. It was just a happy coincidence that all of our players were at the top of their form at the right time,
Hmm.
and so we were second of Liga at one point. I couldn't believe it. Wow, this is truly amazing. And then we slowed down near the end before the winter transfer window. And then after the winter transfer window, not that everything went downhill from there, but the tide started shifting. We were
Hmm.
seventh at the end. We finished 10th. Not that bad. It's what I expected. I didn't expect us to play in Europe. I didn't really expect that. But if you see uh, the points gained in the 2023 season, we're actually last
Mm.
uh, of out of all the clubs that non-relegated or non-promoted clubs. We're last in the 2023. In 2023, yes.
Well, we'll come on to Bill Foley in a moment because I'm sure that you've
Mhm.
got quite a lot to speak about him. But let's talk about the owner. He owns 66% of the club now, which
Mhm.
is Loïc Féry. What is Lorient's fans' views of Ferry?
Lorient. So, like I said, I don't live in Lorient, so
Hmm.
I know one other Lorient fan, but that's not very much, which is my father.
Yeah.
But I think that w- most of us think that he is a businessman, like every other owner of a football club.
Hmm.
We think, especially after he sold some of the club to Foley, that it was a right timing to um, to raise the value of the club so he can sell it
Hmm.
for much more money. And this is what football is about. It's business. We will get to that later when we talk about Foley. But Ferry, I guess, uh, the supporters of Lorient have way less of a problem with him because he's French and that is closer to the family football club, to the values that FC Lorient fans have and want the club to have. So the fact that he's French is what differentiates him for Foley, in a sense that he can also better understand what the club wants, what the fans want. So as it stands, I have a problem with Ferry if he continues to do what he is now doing. Like he doesn't particularly care about the club. He just cares about doing well, not for the sake of the club, for the sake of money, pretty much. Which is unfortunately the reality nowadays. Yes, in all of football.
Of course, Lorient do seem, and this is from somebody who doesn't know much about Lorient. I've got to be honest. Before that, Bill Foley got involved, I didn't know a great deal about the club. However, you seem a club that is very much like ourselves, which is a family club. Originally, Bournemouth was a family club, spent time in League Two, the bottom tier of English football, gradually built its way up into the Premier League. And that family club feeling, how important is it to your football club?
I think it's one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, because at the end of the day, the only reason I support this club it's because of my family lineage.
Hmm.
In a sense, I didn't choose to support this club. The club chose me to support it. It is it is it's family. The club is in a sense family, and it's also very strong with the Celtic culture that we have in Brittany. When I go there in Lorient, there is a festival. It's always in the center. The the Britain flag is on the crest of the
Hmm.
team. It is yes, it is very important.
We'll come on to Foley now because in January, it was actually the 12th of January that it was announced on the AFC Bournemouth website. Bill Foley made a purchase of 33% into Lorient. And initially, from what I saw, Lorient fans were deeply unhappy with Foley getting involved. What was your view?
Yes, I had the same reaction. I was not very comfortable with it. I did not want an not particularly an American investor, but someone that did not any have to do anything with the club. And yes, even if I didn't at the time read as many comments on the internet as I do now, I still had pretty much the same reaction. I had the same reaction. I did not want this to happen, and I still don't think it's a good thing for the club.
Multi-club ownership is the big thing that has been
Yes.
mentioned by Bill Foley. And from where we're sat, because we are top of the pile, top of this multi-club ownership model that he's developed, it seems like a good thing. However, I can understand fully why Lorient fans are absolutely furious, considering we probably are a smaller club than Lorient in all respects. The ground, the stadium, the history of the club is probably smaller. It's really the league that we're in, which is, the biggest league in the world at the moment.
Yes, yes, of course. If Ligue 1 was the most the better league, of course, it would be another conversation. But yes, I will admit I don't know about much about Bournemouth and its history. I don't know how long does the club exist or any
Mhm,
cups. I have no idea, frankly. But a multi-club ownership can go both ways. For example, I saw a video that you posted 6 months ago. I wanted to see your insight. And so you said it could be beneficial, for example, the Manchester City group.
yes.
There are two faces of the coin. Girona are currently second of La Liga. They're in the City Football Group. They're doing well.
Mhm,
However, you can see another French club, Troyes,
mhm,
who got relegated last season from the first division. They finished 19th and are now currently 16th of the second division.
mhm.
This is catastrophical. Um, I would have expected at least something more than from a multi club ownership, especially from Man City. Now, not to be disrespectful, but if a club that is in the multi club ownership of Manchester City
Mhm.
sits currently in the 16th place of the second division, whilst they were playing some years ago in the first division, I cannot see how does Lorient benefit from one made from Bournemouth, because you said, for example, that there will be a new um, um, academy,
Yeah. Yep.
a new academy. So, but because you're on the top of the pyramid, the best academy players will go to Bournemouth, and the second ones will go to Lorient. But we have an academy that it's not something to laugh at. We are currently producing some solid players. One example is Eli Kroupi.
Yep.
I think he could go on and be a very good player. Now, the same applies for our academy. Our best players in a situation where the multi-club ownerships takes full effect, because now I think it's a bit in the early stages. Our best will go to Bournemouth, and we are left with your secondary ones and our secondary ones, which is not optimal. And yes, that is it. This is not optimal.
I can fully understand where you're coming from on that front because, I think it is unfair that, a club like Bournemouth or, in the sense of Manchester City can scoop out the best academy players whilst A, they're cheaper to get, B, it will affect the other club long term. We have got, a situation here where, you know, the academy players coming through at the moment are excellent. But on the spin side, you know, is it unfair to, because of course Bill Foley has also bought a club in New Zealand, so he's starting a club in New Zealand.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know that.
yeah, he's starting a club in New Zealand.
That
Also,
is weird, because New Zealand has only one professional club. I don't.
it's a second one. It's second one that's being started for the
I
A
didn't know that.
League, and then
Mhm,
you've got Hibernian as well in Scotland, which is something that he's also looking
mhm.
at. So there's all these clubs coming together, and I can understand where you're coming from, that we could end up scooping the best players from each of those into our academy to make Bournemouth stronger. But then what goes the other way? And One thing I do want to mention as well is, of course, we signed Dango Ouattara pretty much that same week from Lorient. And I can understand fully why that leaves a terrible taste in your mouth.
Bad timing, very bad timing, especially after he had an absolutely outrageous 5 games where he scored, I think, 4 goals, made 3 assists, absolutely shining in that left wing position, which is something I don't understand. Why isn't Areola using him there? If I remember correctly, he was using him at left back.
Yes, he
I,
is. Yeah, it is
I,
mainly
I
due to
don't.
an injury.
Oh, okay. Yes, I don't really know the situation. Yeah, which could make sense in the sense of an injury, but still, I don't see much progress from him in the sense. How many goals he have? I think he has 1 goal and 3 assists.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I
um,
think
he's a really talented player. Last season
no
against
doubt.
Spurs, he scored that goal, of course, to win us the game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. He's a real talented player. And I want to throw this out there as well. Ouattara actually joined AFC Bournemouth for 22.5 million euros. Um, if you was to have sold him elsewhere, do you feel that you would have got a lot more if this affiliation between the two clubs didn't exist?
No, I don't actually think we'll have gotten much more. Maybe some million more, but no, I don't feel like. I think he's not proven as much to be sold for more. No, I think it was a fair deal, to be honest. But the timing again of the deal was not good,
Mhm.
and then the Romain Faivre situation, which we could talk about later, but which is connected. There were rumors about him leaving this winter. Thankfully, they were discredited, but that also is a massive worry because there is no way we are staying in the first division without him. Uh, he he has contributed to 30% of our goals in a side that is really struggling to score goals.
I wanted to actually ask you about that because there is a couple of reports that are going around at the moment that we may be recalling Romain Faivre, and this has literally come out today. Um, and it's on Get French Football News, so I don't know about the reliability, but how angry will that make Lorient fans, considering the situation with Bill Foley, the
Furious.
purchase of Ouattara, and now recalling Faivre when you really need him?
Oh, yeah, furious, furious. It is unacceptable. Also for the owner to let that happen. But he made a statement. Uh, Let me. I had the statement. I searched it up. Uh, he would be staying, said Loïc Féry. He would be staying. But if that were to happen, that would be massive. Not only because probably get relegated, but it would show the priorities that Foley has. It
Mhm.
it will show that it's more profitable for Bournemouth to maybe be 11th instead of 12th, perhaps. It will be more profitable and have Lorient go down than to Lorient to maintain in the first division, but for Bournemouth to finish 12th. For example, it, but it is normal. From a business side, it makes sense to put all his eggs in one basket because the basket is huge. There is infinitely more potential in the Premier League. But that's not what I want from my club. I do not care about Foley, and frankly, not much about Bournemouth either. I care about
Yeah.
Lorient. Uh, it would be unacceptable from our direction.
I completely understand your view entirely, because and one thing I want you to, give us is because, of course, there was a lot of fans when Ouattara was announced and when Foley announced his purchase. They were like, "We don't really care about Lorient." I personally think that the best thing for both AFC Bournemouth and Lorient and any other club that gets in this multi ownership model is for them to stay in the top flight of the division in the country where they're based. And it feels like, say, for example, we've had Jaden Anthony. He's gone to Leeds. It's part of a Sinistera deal. But we've got other players on loan elsewhere. And my view is that this multi-club ownership model really should be okay. Jaden Anthony doesn't fit into the plans or needs some experience, out on loan to get himself minutes under the belt. We can't offer that. And my view was that okay, we'll send him on loan to Lorient, because he's a good player and I think he'd be capable and would help the club. But that hasn't happened, and it does it feel like it's just a one-way relationship, really, from Lorient fans?
Yes, pretty much. Because yes, like you said, we haven't seen anything. No loanies from Bournemouth. Nobody. Really. And we are currently in a squad shortage. We play a game tomorrow.
Mm,
For the Coupe de France, the equivalent of the FA Cup.
yeah.
We play against third division side, but with 13 players. Three of them are goalkeepers, if I remember. I'm perhaps I'm wrong, but very few players. And there's an injury. I don't know. That is a problem. And so it should be an easy game against a third division team. But with only 13 players, anything can happen, really. So I'm really not confident for tomorrow's game because, first of all, I've personally lost trust in our trainer. I do not think he can make the club progress anymore. And even if we win, we will get eliminated by the next or in 2 rounds. It's very pessimistic, but the club does it's not doing well. It's in a state of crisis. We lost 4-0 against our arch rivals. This is unacceptable. Ultras. I don't know if you read the story. Our ultras. Um, uh, I don't know. Sorry for bad English, but
That's all right.
400 pounds of rotten fish in our training ground.
Mm.
400 pounds. Yes, crazy stuff. I'm sorry if I'm diverging from the question here. Uh,
No, no, absolutely no. It's great. It's great, and I really appreciate your honesty on this subject because I would. I'll be honest, Nicholas. If it was the other way round, I would be fuming. And there is clubs lower down the pyramid who are in this situation with bigger clubs elsewhere. And that is where, I completely understand the frustrations. And surely Lorient fans should be thinking, with only 13 players available, that Bournemouth should be helping them out, because we have got enough players in the youth squad, we've got enough players in the reserves. You know, it would not hurt Bournemouth, say, for example, to loan out M. Marcondes, who is a player who could do a good job at Lorient, who's a talented player. And do you feel that Bournemouth should be doing a lot more and more should be happening the other way?
yes, of course. But whilst loans to Lorient from Bournemouth would be good if the players are actually quality and can actually help us, but it's not with loans that you build a long-term squad that wants to do
Agree.
things in the long term. They might be helpful, but uh, a loan is a loan. It will get you that far. It cannot make you progress to the next level because it's temporary. You might go there, but you fall right after.
One thing I did want to ask you about as well is Bill Foley is, when it was all announced, said that he was going to purchase the club as a whole. That was one of the things on the agenda. Now, Loïc Féry, from what it sounds like, has kind of lost interest. Bill Foley is potentially going to purchase the whole of Lorient. Which way do you want this really to go? Do you want Loïc Féry to buy that part of the club back to, make sure that the ownership is under one person and somebody the club knew and somebody that the club, have succeeded with in the past? Or do you want Bill Foley to make the full purchase? Or in an ideal world, would you rather somebody completely fresh and new come in and buy the two of them out?
Somebody in an ideal world with no chance, but yes, somebody that cares for the club, maybe an old player. I don't really know what they're doing, the old players from the club, or how successful they are, but someone ideally from Lorient that has the money to support the club, which is a unicorn. I mean, it realistically not going to happen. But from between Foley and Ferry, I much rather Ferry than Foley. Foley again. At first, he wanted to buy Lyon.
Mhm,
This is what it's the breaking point. He wanted to buy Lyon. He didn't succeed, so he buys Lorient. We're
mhm.
just the second option to his plan, and at the end of the day, he doesn't really care what crest is on the club that he buys. He just cares about the club, the financial part of it. So he would have bought Lyon. And the worrying thing is that even if he bought Lyon, which is one of the biggest clubs in French history, Bournemouth would still be his priority. That's how dominant the Premier League is. That's how that's how uh, unfair it feels. Bournemouth would have gotten preferential treatment over Lyon. So there is no way that we'll get anything of value if we are Lorient. If Lyon isn't going to get it, we are not going to get it.
One thing as well I wanted to speak to you about was I've had a look at the transfers out this season. And two, and I know you mentioned one of these players earlier on, but two of the players who were big stars last season, Enzo Lafay and Terem Moffi, were sold for some big money. Now, coming in, there was probably, I think it was probably about 20 million euros worth of players that come back into the club. But with regards to the money, has that money been made available against for for the fight against relegation?
I do not see anything. We did a smart buy. I
Hmm.
think from Benjamin Mendy. I think that was a very smart buy.
Hmm.
Uh, Other than that, I heard a week ago. I was scrolling on Twitter, and apparently, our coach was presented with some options that he didn't like, and now they're doing very well and would have helped our team massively. Which it is what it is, I guess. And from what I see, there is not much traffic in the winter transfer window. We're we're only linked with one player from Rennes, and the other links are departures. Departures. We're going to play with 13 men tomorrow. You want people leaving? Well, to be fair, those players not up to the level, I suppose, not very performant. But you want to sell?
Well,
Why?
exactly. I can
It doesn't
completely.
make sense. Bring more players in, more quality players, more players that care.
Mm,
Because, for example, um, I don't know. I hope Romain Faivre cares. I think he cares about the survival of Lorient. But let's say it's just a random player signs for Bournemouth, loans the player to Lorient. Why does he care? He just needs to prove himself, not the team. Let's say the team gets relegated, he go back to Bournemouth, Premier League player. Nothing has changed for him, pretty much.
I completely understand where you're coming from, and I really do hope Lorient survive this season. Selling players when you've only got 13 players,
No.
and you're looking like you're not going to bring in very many, is well just a recipe for disaster. And it seems like, do you think Loic Ferry has lost that interest completely, and Bill Foley is not really that bothered? He's not focused at all on Lorient.
To be fair, I do not know because it seems very strange. Even from a business point of view, it is in his interest to keep the club
Yeah.
surviving in the first division. So I, I don't know. That's the problem. I don't really understand if he lost all interest, and he lost some of it, of course, to for him to sell the club. And also, want to clarify, 13 players for tomorrow's game. I think it's 13. Maybe it's a bit more, a bit less. I don't know. I hope not less. But the other players that we have, I think, other injured. We have some injured players, and also Afcon. I think we have some players.
hmm
Not much, but I think some.
Well, we've been saying about the negative
Um,
side of Bill Foley here, but of course, Bill Foley, is a businessman. No doubt, in his mind, he wants Lorient to survive. What would get Bill Foley back in Lorient fans' good books, or do you think it's just past it? Do you think there's no way that Bill Foley is ever going to be accepted by the club's fans?
so first of all, I want to address the first thing that you said, that Bill Foley wants to Lorient stay up.
Yeah.
I don't think he cares that much because at the end of the day, in his pyramid, Bournemouth are at the top. And what would really benefit Bournemouth is the academy players. I think Foley is way more interested in a good academy than a good club in itself. So if Lorient goes down but Bournemouth succeed, I think he prefers that than Bournemouth finishing, I don't know, 15th and Lorient 16th. I think he would rather for Bournemouth to finish in the top half of the Premier League and Lorient really uh, going down or anything. He wouldn't care that much uh, if Bournemouth is doing well. And the second thing, uh, I think Ferry will Foley, sorry, will only be accepted if he uh, he understands the mentality and the values that the club has, and puts Lorient at the level of Bournemouth, which it's not the logical thing to do
hmm
from a business perspective. It's not the logical thing to do, and I completely understand that. I would have done the same if I had two clubs, one in the Premier League, the other one in the Ligue 1. But it's not a rational thing to do for Lorient fans to like Foley. He needs to uh, get himself to know the club and all the culture around it, which not going to happen. Not going to happen really.
No, fair enough. Really, the last question is on what Lorient fans think of AFC Bournemouth. And there's been a couple, if you look at Twitter or X or whatever you call it now, there's been, some really negative stuff from the Lorient fans. Can completely understand that. There's also some of our fans that haven't really put themselves in a good picture, that say we don't care about Lorient or anything like that. Um, Personally, I want both clubs, to be successful. And do you think there is a relationship worth saving there, or do you think that the two clubs are just going to always be at loggerheads as it feels, or the two sets of fans really more than anything?
Well, for example, when the friendly game was played between Bournemouth and FC Lorient, I really wanted for Lorient to win. I really wanted, please win, please, we need. Now
Yeah,
we lost,
I
but
understand.
I really wanted to win. But the truth is, the only way for Foley to take some interest in Lorient, which even that would be not for the football, but let's say Lorient interests him. It's if Bournemouth are in League Two. Really, that's the only way.
Do you know what? There was
That
some fans as well that said that go back to League Two, did their research and said, please
yes, I
go back to League Two.
well because if you're in League Two, there's no interest anymore, and we can go back to normal again. I guess this is why I think our fans will always quarrel over over who gets the most out of this football pyramid, which will always be you. So the hate will always come from FC Lorient fans.
Mm.
Do you have any arch rivals? I don't know. I don't know about the club.
Yeah, so well, we don't really have many arch rivals, but to be honest, Southampton's probably the biggest one because of the locality. But do we really hate them? No, not really. We're one of those clubs that haven't got a real dislike for anybody.
Hmm.
But I can understand completely why Lorient fans don't like us and why Lorient fans want to see AFC Bournemouth fail. I can understand that.
Yes, it's not AFC Bournemouth. Had it been another club, had it been I don't know Southampton, had it been Leicester, Norwich, it has little to do with the actual thing that is happening.
Mm.
So it's not Bournemouth per se, but it's the club that sits on top of that sits on top of us, and it's not good for our interests. Yeah, that's
Now I completely understand. I completely understand, Nicholas. Well, Nicholas, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on this show. Thank you so much for coming on. I really
thank
do
you for
hope,
having me.
not a problem at all, mate. And I really do hope Lorient survive this season and go from strength to strength next year and so on and so forth. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you know, one of a couple of things will happen. That Loic Féry does take more of an interest because I think that is something that from an outsider looking in, that's a big concern that the owner has just kind of lost interest and sold players that maybe the club should have kept. Every player's got a cost, but at the same time, you need to make sure you're competitive. If Bill Foley does take over the whole club, then I hope that he would put Lorient on a par with ourselves, and therefore, effectively try to make both teams successful. How that is going to work, I don't know. But I think the multi-club ownership, Nicholas, the setup, can be viewed as a positive. In a sense that if every club is treated the same, or you know the club's foundations, which Lorient have got a lot of foundations, are taken care of. But I can understand why your fans don't feel like that.
Yes, and some final thoughts in there. Even if Foley, let's say in a perfect world, takes all of Lorient, is really interested in the club and pours millions of millions and millions of dollars, and we are in the Champions League. I don't, not going to happen, but let's say
Hmm.
if that implies that we sell our soul and the club is lost, is dissipated, and all that, it's not worth it.
Do you know what? You would get a lot of Bournemouth fans who probably would agree with you. The fans that have been here for longer than I've been alive, those sort of fans, do feel, and I've seen it with my own eyes on Twitter and X and on the Vital forums, they do feel that the club is going in a different direction now to what it was. The club is losing touch of that family feeling that we've had all these years and under Maxim Deming that we had. So I completely understand where you're coming from for that. Bill Foley for us is a great thing, because of course the stadium and the investment and establishing ourselves in the Premier League, it wouldn't have happened under Maxim anymore because A, he wanted to sell for a long time, and B, he hasn't got the endless pot of gold that he feels like Foley has, even though there is going to be an end to it. Foley is a lot richer. Um,
Mhm.
but there is that family feel with this club that a lot of fans would probably agree is disappearing. And that's one thing you wouldn't want to happen to Lorient as well, Nicholas.
Nope. And unfortunately, it happens to the whole football industry. Uh, yes. I'm not alive for long enough to experience what the previous generation did, but it seems that the more money is involved in it, the less football is involved in it.
Yep, I completely understand where you're coming from. And part of me, even though I am enjoying this ride, and Foley's millions and,
Mm.
the thought of a new stadium, even though I wanted us to really redevelop Dean Court and make it in somewhere, that had that history, but also that modern feeling, more fans in there. I completely understand where you are coming from on that sense, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fans, even if AFC Bournemouth got into the Europa League, might think, don't really like this because the heart of the club's gone. But Nicholas, like I say, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on, and I wish Lorient fans all the very best. Wish the club the very best, and the players the very best. And as I say, there is no bad feeling from my side to Lorient, and hopefully, fingers crossed, this chat, once it airs, and hopefully Lorient fans will watch it. There is a bit of a more positive relationship between the two clubs, and we can just realise, yeah, it is just Bill Foley's vision,
Yes,
which maybe is what you disagree with.
yes, exactly. Thank you for having me, and have a nice weekend.
And you as well. All the very best. And thank you everybody for joining us. Please remember to hit the like and subscribe, the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Please do also check out of all of our other interviews. Of course, Mark Housey was on the show recently. Lots of stuff about VAR in there. Steve Cook was on here previously. Steve Fletcher. Lots and lots of big names. Joe Roach as well, who looked after a number of youth players when he was at the football club, and lots more. So please do check all of those out. Do also let us know what other content you would like to see as well. So by all means, you can send us a message, UTC IAD AFCB, on Instagram, Twitter, and also now we've got a Discord channel. So if you add UTC IAD AFCB, hit the friend button, we'll add you. But until the next show, up the cherries, and we'll see you then. Thank you for joining us.